Welcome to the Man of Recaps. Game of Thrones Season 6 starts with Jon Snow dead after he was Julius Caesared by the Night's Watch last season. Alistair Thorne holds the meeting. He's like, yeah, I did it. I killed Jon, and everyone seems generally okay with that. Theon and Sansa trudge through the snow after their daring escape from Winterfell last season. Of course, they're caught immediately. Luckily, Brienne comes in to save the day. Podrick helps too. Jaime comes back from Dorne with the dead body of his niece daughter Myrcella. Remember, she was poisoned by the Sand Snakes because they want war to avenge Oberyn. So they decide to stage a coup in Dorne by killing Oberyn's brother and his nephew. And they're like, yeah, women rule in Dorne now, and everyone seems generally okay with that. Now, down in King's Landing, Cersei's got this awesome new bodyguard. It's a reanimated mountain corpse. What? Qyburn did some freaky Frankenstein stuff to him. Qyburn's building a spy network of little kids. He gives them candy, so that works. And then Tommen marches down to see the High Sparrow. He's like, I demand you release Marjorie, but the High Sparrow's like, hey, why don't you sit with me on the bench of manipulation? Instead, I'll tell you about how great the gods are. Daenerys is captured by the Dothraki. They bring her to see this Khal Drogo cosplayer who's like, hey, you're my slave now. And she's like, I'm no one's slave. I'm a Khaleesi. And it's like, oh, if you're the widow of a Khal, you have to go to this boring shack with the other widows and live there for the rest of your life. Arya is a blind beggar on the streets of Braavos. The faceless men blinded her because she killed the wrong person last season, so her assassin friend comes and starts beating her with sticks. Eventually, she finds her friend Jack and Agar, who's like, you ready to join the guild for real? She's like, are you going to stop beating me with sticks? He's like, actually, there's going to be more of that. And she's like, fine, let's just get this over with. In a scary dark cave north of the wall, Bran Stark is tripping out on tree roots with this old dude, the Three-Eyed Raven. They're going on spirit vision quests. He sees his father, young Ned Stark, and his young Uncle Benjen, and his young Aunt Lyanna Stark, and also young Hodor, who was quite an eloquent chap in his youth. Back to Jon Snow, his loyal friends are holed up in this room, so Alistair Thorne comes, like, open the door so he can kill you. They prepare for a fight, but then a giant comes in, yes, with all of Jon's wildling friends. They take the castle without a fight, except for this one dude who decides to attack the giant by himself. Always a bad idea. Anyway, Jon's dead, so Davos Seaworth goes to see Melisandre the Red Priestess, who she showed us her boobs earlier, always nice, but when she takes off her magic necklace, oh, she's a million years old, what? Anyway, Davos is like, hey, you're a priest, can't you cast Revive on Jon Snow? And she's like, no, I spec'd into Shadow, I never really learned that spell, but she decides to give it a go anyway. She says the magic words, yo, come on back now, boo, and it works! Jon Snow's alive! Craziness! How is this happening? He utters his famous first words, why am I naked? Anyway, Theon says goodbye to Sansa. She's going back home to the Iron Islands, a dreary, rainy place with rickety old bridges where you're liable to meet cloaked strangers in the night. Theon's dad, King Balon, is like, oh, it's my long-lost brother Euron Greyjoy. What are you doing here? I'm here to throw you off this bridge! What? Oh, murdered! Yara's like, I guess that makes me queen of the Iron Islands. They're like, no, actually, we have a progressive democratic system. She's like, oh, well, I'll run. No, no chicks allowed. Now, Bran Stark's on another vision quest. He sees a slightly older Ned Stark during Robert's Rebellion era. They're facing off against some Kingsguard of old Aerys Targaryen. He's like, hey, you guys missed the entire war. What are you doing here? They're like, we're on this secret mission to guard this tower, but we can't tell you what's in it. Ned's like, is it my kidnapped sister Lyanna Stark? They're like, no, can't tell you, time to fight. So it's Arthur Dayne, Sword of the Morning, dual wielding. He's a boss, and it finally comes down to a 1v1 with Ned, but then he's stabbed in the back by Ned's friend Howland Reed. So Ned's like, all right, what's in the tower? Bran Stark wants to go find out too, but the Three-Eyed Raven stops him. It's like, no, it's too early in the season for this. Now, Jon executes all the people that stabbed him, including Ollie. That's what you get, Ollie. And he's like, you know what? Forget the Night's Watch. I'm going down to Dorne to the beach. Now, it's just then Sansa shows up, and they have a Stark reunion, though, and Tormund has a huge crush on Bran, so watch out for that. Littlefinger makes it back to the Vale, where this little brat lord's in charge. He gets him a bird, and he's like, hey, you want to trade this bird for maybe your whole army? And the kid's like, yeah, that seems like a fair trade. And this lord's like, hey, you can't just do that. But Littlefinger's like, yes, I can. And yeah, Littlefinger can. He owns the Vale now. So he goes to see Sansa. He's like, so sorry, I just gave you to Ramsay Bolton to be raped and tortured, but I brought you an army. She's like, forget it, I don't want your army. Oh, sad Littlefinger. Now it's the dream team in Meereen. With Daenerys gone, Tyrion and Varys are in charge. They're having some graffiti problems, though, with the Sons of the Harpy, so Tyrion formulates a plan. Step 1 is release the dragons. He unchains them, but they stay there for now. Step 2, he meets with local religious leaders to get some support. He finds this Red Priestess, who's a total babe, and he's like, hey, do you want to help Daenerys? And she's like, yeah, Daenerys has dragons and fire. Our god loves fire. It's a no-brainer. Step 3, he meets with the slavers of the other cities. He's like, hey, can you guys stop, like, messing with our city, and we'll let you slave for a little while longer. It'll be cool, a nice little peace. And Grey Worm's like, hey, you can't make peace with the slavers. You can't trust them. But Tyrion's like, nah, I got this. Jorah and Daario are hot on Dany's trail, out to rescue her. They pose as wine merchants for about 5 seconds before resorting to violence. They find Daenerys, but then she's like, wait, hold on, I have a plan. She meets with the Khals, and she's like, hey, remember how I'm immune to fire? Oh, push the brazier, burn the flames, burn and hitting all the Khals. Oh, and she steps out of the burning building, completely naked, looking hot, and all these Dothraki are like, well, damn, we gotta bow to her. Now, Roose Bolton meets with his son Ramsay, tells him about how disappointed he is. Luckily, he gets the news right now. He's got a new son. Ramsay's like, oh, congrats, Dad. Shanked! Oh, Roose is like, oh, I probably should have seen this coming. And Ramsay's like, hey, little brother, sorry, I'm going to feed you to the dogs. No offense. Ramsay's trying to make some new friends with other Northern lords. He finds this Lord Umber who's like, I like the cut of your jib. Look what I found. It's Rickon Stark. What? We haven't seen him in, like, season 3. How do I know this is Rickon Stark? Oh, it's a wolf head. Yeah, that'll do. And so Asha's there, too. Remember her? She does the whole, like, I'm going to pretend to have sex with you so I can kill you thing. And Ramsay's like, funny, that's my game, too. Oh, stabbed. Asha, sucks for you. So Ramsay sends a letter to Jon Snow. He's like, give me Sansa back or I'm gonna come and kill you, plus I have your brother Rickon. And Jon Snow's like, man, I'm not gonna get a beach vacation this season, am I? So Arya's plowing through her blind stick fighting training montage. Pretty soon she's a master, and Jaqen gives her her eyes back and is like, look, you've got a new assassination mission, don't screw this one up. This one's an actress in this play that's a reenactment of season 1, which of course brings back some pretty bad memories for Arya. Anyway, the actress likes rum, so Arya poisons the rum, but then she sort of befriends the actress, so when she goes to drink the rum, Arya knocks it out of her hand and she's like, man, I'm the worst assassin ever. Now it's King's Moot time in the Iron Islands. Yara's like, vote for me, I'm gonna build a bunch of ships, and Theon's like, yeah, I'm with her, but then Euron Greyjoy Trump comes in and he's like, yo, I'm gonna build even more ships, plus I'll make the Lannisters pay for them, plus I got a big old dick. What? Everyone's like, yeah, Euron King, they vote for him. He also admits, by the way, to killing his brother, the last king, and everyone seems generally okay with this. So his real plan is to go find Daenerys and ally with her to go conquer all of Westeros. Now, Yara and Theon thinks it's a pretty good idea, so they steal some ships to go do it first. Bran's on another vision quest way in the past where the Children of the Forest are doing some sketchy ritual on this guy. Oh, they stab him in the heart with obsidian and turn him into the first White Walker. What? Bran wakes up, he's like, why'd you create the White Walkers? They're like, because we were being all genocided by humans. We had to do something. So one day, Bran is like, hey, old guy, you awake? So he goes on a vision quest by himself to the same tree in the present day where there's the army of zombies and also the Night's King, and he can see him, and he grabs him and leaves his mark, and the guy's like, oh man, now he can get through the door. So sure enough, the White Walkers show up, and the Children of the Forest are throwing their fireballs, and they're trying to wake Bran, but he's stuck last minute downloading, so they're running out of there, and the White Walkers come in, they kill the three-eyed raven, and then Summer the Wolf comes to sacrifices himself to buy time, and the elf chick sacrifices herself to buy time, but it's not enough, and so they're like, Hodor, you gotta hold the door, and then because Bran's in the past, he somehow wargs Hodor in the past and gives him this seizure. He starts yelling, hold the door, and that, of course, evolves into just Hodor, and Bran's like, oh, I made Hodor retarded as part of a time travel paradox. I feel so bad. But anyway, Hodor does hold the door like a champion. Of course, they don't make it very far, and the zombies catch up with them, but then this guy comes with a flaming mace thing. What? It's his Uncle Benjen. He's like, yeah, the White Walkers killed me back in season 1, but the children found me first to maybe a good zombie instead of a bad zombie. I'm just wandering the forest this whole time, not doing much. And Bran's like, cool story, bro. Now, Marjorie is still a prisoner of the faith in King's Landing. The High Sparrow tells his backstory of how he lost his shoes at an orgy once, and that's why he's so religious now. Anyway, she gets to see her brother Loras Tyrell, and he's like, look, can we just confess and get out of here? I'm like, I hate it. And so she's like, okay, fine, a plan. She gets to see Tommen, and she's like, hey, honey, we're going to be super religious now. Why don't you sit with me on the bench of manipulation? I'll tell you all about it. So Marjorie's going to do her naked walk of shame through the streets. Yes, please. But her dad comes in, Mace Tyrell looking fly with his feather, and he's all like, nah, none of this naked walk of shame for you guys. We're here to rescue you. She's like, oh, I wish you coordinated plans, because now they've got the King Tommen, and they announce the merger of church and state, which all the peasants love because they don't know any better, and this ruins their whole plan to save her. And Tommen's like, look, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just trying to get laid. Now, they release Jaime from the King's Guard, which makes him mad and makes Cersei horny. Yes, twincest is still going on. Now, remember Walder Frey. He's the old pervy guy who did the Red Wedding, and Edmure Tully, the guy who got married at the Red Wedding. Well, they were granted the castle of Riverrun, but then the Blackfish Tully took it back with the Force. And so the Freys are like, hey, we'll kill Edmure if you don't surrender the castle. And he's like, see if I care. The Freys are like, oh man, we didn't really plan for that. So they send Jaime in to go save the day, and he brings Bronn, who's in top comedic form. Jaime lays the smack down, and he meets with the Blackfish to get him to surrender, but it's like, you're a punk little bitch, I'm never surrendering. So Brienne happens to be there too, because Sansa heard about the Blackfish from Littlefinger, she sent her down, and she's like, hey, I'm here to recruit the Blackfish to fight for Sansa Stark in the north. Jaime's like, this is awkward because I'm sieging the Blackfish and Sansa's wanted for the murder of Joffrey, but he lets her see him anyway, and the Blackfish is like, sorry, like, I've got my own problems to deal with. So Jaime talks to Edmure Tully, and is like, you've got two choices. You can live comfortably under house arrest with your hot wife and your newborn son. Edmure's like, what's my other choice? It's like, I'm going to launch your son out of a catapult. So Edmure's like, okay, guys, we're going to surrender the castle. And the Blackfish is like, forget that, I'm going down fighting. And Brienne rows away on a rowboat. Back in King's Landing, cousin Lancel Lannister comes with the sparrows. He's like, Cersei, you gotta come with us for a thing. She's like, yeah, over the mountain's dead body. So this guy decides to attack a giant by himself, which, as we already discussed, is ill-advised. And Lancel's like, I guess we'll come back later. But Tommen announces that there's gonna be no more trials by combat, which of course was Cersei's whole plan for her trial. So Qyburne's like, hey, it's time to go to plan B. Now, hey, it's Samwell Tarly. What's he doing? He's going off to college to be the new maester for the Night's Watch. He's got his girlfriend Jillian and her baby. He's stopping by his old house, though, to drop her off because there's no chicks allowed at college. Now his mom and sister are super nice, but his dad is a huge dick. Remember, he forced Sam to take the Night's Watch oath or else he would murder him, and so when he starts ripping into Sam for being fat, Jilly steps up to defend her man, but she lets it slip that she's a wildling, and he's like, hey, you see that sword? That's the sword I kill wildlings with. So Sam's like, I'm sorry, Jilly, you gotta stay here working the kitchens, but then he's like, you know what, forget it, you're coming with me, plus I'm taking this sword. And so they make it down to the University of Old Town, talk to the admissions office, allowed to use the library, which is awesome because Sam loves books. Now, elsewhere, these happy peasants are building a church. Who's this big guy? It's Sandor Clegane, the Hound! He survived, even though last time we saw him, he was grievously injured. He's befriended this, Septon, who's this hippie commune leader type, and he's got this message like, yo, it's never too late to redeem yourself and be a good guy, which resonates with him. But then these bandits come and they kill everyone, including his new friend, friend. So the Hound is like, okay, time for a revenge murder rampage. But when he finds the bandit leaders, they're already being hung by the Brotherhood without banners. Remember them, the Robin Hood types led by Beric Dondarrion, who's like, yo, Hound, you should join us, because it's never too late to redeem yourself and stuff. And he's like, fine, as long as there's chicken, I'm in. So Arya retrieves her sword needle from its conveniently sword-shaped hole, and she decides to book passage back to Westeros. First, she stops by to admire the scenery of Braavos one last time. Oh, I'm shanked, what? It's like, yes, you've got an assassin guild after you. What do you expect? So she manages to escape for now. She goes to the house of the actress chick, who is luckily a very good surgeon, but she's dead too, and it's like, we're a Master Assassin's Guild. What did you expect? So they go on this chase through the streets, and Arya leaps off the thing and ruins this perfectly good farmer's market, and it ends where she's cornered in the dark, but then she's like, wait, let me channel my blind fighting energy. Lights out. Oh, I won. Yes, I beat it. And she's like, Jack and yo, we good? And he's like, yeah, I guess that was a test and you passed maybe? And she's like, nah, forget you guys. You're crazy. I'm going home. Daenerys is talking to her boyfriends. She's like, hey, Jorah, I've banished you so many times, but you keep coming back. I guess you're unbanished. He's like, oh, that's great, but actually I'm dying of grayscale. She's like, I command you to find a cure. Walk the earth on foot as long as it takes. And he's like, okay. And that's the last we see of him this season. So Daenerys is Khaleesi of all the Dothraki now, and she's looking all sexy up on her horse, but she's like, wait a minute, this is all wrong. Yes, I should be riding a dragon. This is much better. Back in Meereen, Tyrion's plan's working. Everything's pretty cool now. So Varys is like, hey, I'm going on a secret mission. I'll see you later. Tyrion's celebrating with his friends when a slaver armada shows up and lays siege to the city. And just then Daenerys comes back. So they meet with the slavers, and Dany's like, surrender or be destroyed. And she's got a dragon to back it up. So she jumps on its back, goes flying around. The other two bust out. All three dragons flying. They want to keep the ship, so they single out this one in particular and make an example out of it. Tyrion's like, hey, slavers, we had a deal and you broke it. One of you has to die. Grey Worm's like, actually, two of you have to die. And Tyrion's like, look, be good from now on. Jon Snow is putting together an army to take back Winterfell. The wildlings are going to fight for him because Tormund's got a huge man crush on him, but he meets with other northern lords. He finds Lyanna Mormont, who's like 11 years old, and she don't take no shit from no one. She's awesome, but then she's like, yeah, Jon Snow, I'm going to fight for you. Of course, the other northern lords are like, you sort of seem like the losing side. No offense for not getting involved. And Sansa's like, we need more men. She writes to Littlefinger, and she's like, hey, actually, I really could use that army, thanks. But their plan is to stay back and let Ramsay charge at them so they can't get flanked, which is a pretty good plan. But on the day of, Ramsay's like, hey, Rickon Stark, see how far you can run before I can hit you with an arrow. And Jon Snow rushes up there. He's all like, oh man, I'm going to save you. But of course he's too late. Rickon gets hit. R.I.P. Rickon, you were the most useless Stark. And Jon realizes now he's in the middle of the battlefield by himself. He's like, I've made a huge mistake. I guess nothing left to do but draw my sword and die like a badass. Yes, but just then his army makes it in and they crash. And it's craziness in the melee. Oh, it's wildness. And they end up though with a Bolton's shield wall surrounding them. And Jon's being trampled under all the dead and dying bodies, but he makes it up and he gasps from air. And just when all hope is lost, Sansa and Littlefinger show up with the Knights of the Vale. They use cavalry charge on the infantry. It's super effective. And then Ramsay retreats back to Winterfell, but a giant busts in. This time a lot of people shoot him, so he does die, but they take the castle, and Ramsay's like, one-on-one with Jon Snow, but he blocks it, and he's like, I'm gonna punch you in the face repeatedly. And they lock him in the kennels with his own dogs, and they feed him to his dogs, and Sansa's like, yes, revenge feels good. And the Stark direwolf flies over Winterfell once again. Down in King's Landing, it's the day of Cersei's trial. Loras Tyrell has to go first. He's like, yes, I plead guilty to everything. I'm super gay. Just let me go home. So then it's Cersei's turn, but she's not here. She's still home drinking wine. Tommen's not here either. The mountain stopped him from leaving, so Cousin Lancel goes to see what's up, but he finds this sketchy kid, follows him to the catacombs, and he gets shanked. And Grandmaster Pycelle's led to Qyburns, and there's more orphan kids with knives. What? Oh, stabby stab, they kill him too. And Lancel's like, wait a second, is this a buttload of wildfire? Oh man, blow, Lancel, blow. But he's too late, exploded, boom, blam, boom. What? High Sparrow's like, explode, the whole sept. That's Marjorie and all the Tyrells, Uncle Kevin Lannister, all those random. Cersei just killed them all. And she's like, yeah, Cersei, you a bad girl. Back in the north, Davos Seaworth is pissed at Melisandre for burning Shireen last season. He found the little toy he gave her, so he's like, oh, why'd you burn her? She was a girl. And Jon Snow's like, I guess you're banished. So Melisandre's banished. Littlefinger talks to Sansa. He's like, Sansa, my one true vision is to be king on the Iron Throne with you by my side as my queen. And she's like, oh, sorry, bro, I don't feel that way about you. Poor Littlefinger. Now, Walder Frey is celebrating having River run back by eating some pie, but what's this? Oh, his sons were baked in the pie by Arya. Yes, she stole a face on the way out, and she slits his throat, gets some revenge. Cross that another name off her list. Uncle Benjen drops Bran off at this tree. He's like, I got important zombie stuff to do. So Bran's like, okay, time to find out what's in the tower. Ned busts in there. It's his sister Lyanna Stark with a baby. Yes, she's like, promise me, Ned, Rhaegar's the father, but don't tell Robert Baratheon because he'll kill the Targaryen. It's like, wait a second, does this mean the baby is Jon Snow? Yes, it's not Ned Stark's son at all. It's his nephew that was protected, and this means Rhaegar Targaryen is his father. There's still so much we don't know, like, were they married or is he still a bastard? But in any case, he's half Targaryen, half Stark. That's pretty badass. So they hold a council of Northern Lords, and Lyanna's like, Jon Snow, King of the North? And everyone's like, yeah, Jon Snow, King of the North, King of the North. And Jon's like, man, I'm never gonna get this beach vacation. Sansa's cool with this. She likes Jon, and she's Lady of Winterfell, but Littlefinger's looking sketchy over in the corner. Who knows what he's gonna do? Jaime gets back to King's Landing. He's like, man, what did I miss? When Tommen saw it all go down, he was like, no, Marjorie, I'm coming for you. I hope there's sex in the afterlife. Oh, R.I.P. Tommen. And without a clear line of succession, Cersei just crowns herself. She's like, yeah, that's right. I'm the sexy queen on the Iron Throne now. Badass. Daenerys breaks up with Daario because she wants to be single for her invasion of Westeros. She names Tyrion hand to the queen, and the Greyjoy siblings get there. She sort of flirts with Yara, who's confirmed into chicks, by the way, and they form an alliance. And then in Dorne, Grandma Tyrell's meeting with the Sand Snakes to ally against Cersei, and Varys is there too to recruit them for Daenerys. So Daenerys is sailing for Westeros. She's got ships, an army, she's got allies, and she's got 3 big-ass dragons. This has been a long time coming, but it's finally happening, and that's how Season 6 comes to an end.